The Grand War Arena floated above a dying moon like an iron crown, cold and heavy, watching the silent battlefield below. For decades this moon had seen only fire, burning fleets, broken cities, ruins drifting in the thin air. Today, for the first time in 40 years, the Galactic Council had declared a ceasefire to witness the final peace negotiations. Thousands of shimmering lights circled the arena as ships from every empire arrived, each one carrying diplomats, generals, and leaders who were exhausted from endless war. Inside the arena, the main chamber stretched like a cathedral built for giants, filled with tiered seats, tall banners, guards with electric spears, and voices that murmured like faraway storms. Yet among all these powerful beings, Earth sent only one representative, Jonas Ward. He entered through a small side gate, his boots echoing on the stone floor, his badge reading only one word: spectator. He was not a diplomat, not a commander, not even trained for talks like these. He had been chosen because Earth was rebuilding weak after decades of neutrality. Jonas had been working as a cultural observer on a nearby station when he was suddenly assigned to this mission, told only to watch and report. He felt small walking into the hall, surrounded by towering species with armored skin and glowing eyes. His heart beat fast, but he kept his face calm. He found his assigned seat, alone at a small human desk, and quietly adjusted the thin data pad glowing beside him. But the moment he sat down, silence spread through the arena like a slow wave. Every alien's head turned, every eye locked onto him, every voice died as if someone had cut the air itself. Jonas blinked, confused. He looked behind him, nothing. He looked to the side, empty seats. But the aliens were staring only at him. The enemy commanders, known as some of the most feared warriors in the galaxy, stood frozen. Their black armor glowed with battle scars. Their reptilian eyes widened. One of them took a slow step back. The other grabbed the arm of a soldier next to him as if grounding himself. Jonas frowned. He whispered under his breath, did I sit in the wrong place?" The generals didn't move. Their claws twitched. Their neck plates shifted. Their hearts beat so loudly Jonas could hear the sound through their chests. Then the whispering began. Sharp, trembling, spreading from row to row. A human here? Why would they send one of them? This is not part of the treaty? Impossible. Their kind should never be near a battlefield. Jonas's stomach tightened. He forced a small, awkward smile, hoping maybe it was some cultural misunderstanding. But the fear in their eyes was not confusion. It was terror, and it grew every second he sat there. One of the alien commanders dropped her ceremonial spear, the metal echoing across the chamber. Another soldier swallowed hard, his throat glowing faintly as he whispered, "Did Earth send him?" Jonas lowered his eyes to his datapad, pretending not to notice. His fingers shook a little. He felt hundreds of eyes burning into him, as if waiting for him to explode or transform. Someone in the council gallery actually hid behind a pillar when Jonas looked up. Even the guards stepped back. This was no misunderstanding. They were afraid of him. But why? He had not done anything. He didn't even know these species personally. A deep voice finally cracked the silence. The enemy's supreme war leader, a giant being covered in dark red plates, stepped forward. His claws dragged the ground as he approached the negotiation table. His soldiers watched with wide eyes, unsure if he would attack or run. Jonas felt his throat tighten as the commander stopped in front of him. The massive creature looked down at Jonas, trembling. Then, with a sudden heavy thud, he fell to his knees. Gasps ripped through the arena. Weapons dropped. Guards shouted in confusion. The commander lowered his head to the floor, his voice shaking so much he could barely speak. "We surrender. Please, don't let the humans speak." The arena exploded into chaos. Diplomats shouted over one another. Generals slammed their fists on tables. Council members stood from their seats, horrified and confused. Jonas sat frozen, his heartbeat pounding in his ears. What is happening?" he whispered. But no one answered him, because no one could explain it. The surrender had come before any negotiation, before any demand. before any talk. The alien soldiers began kneeling one by one, forming waves of collapsing bodies. Some cried out in their own language. Some begged their officers to leave. Many refused to look at Jonas directly, as if his face held a forbidden truth. Jonas rose slowly from his seat, hands lifted in confusion. I don't understand, he said. I'm just here to observe. I didn't even— Do not speak, an alien diplomat screamed. The voice echoed like a breaking wall, trembling with panic. Another council member shouted, Stand back! Don't go near him! Jonas froze in place. His pulse hammered painfully. He didn't know what these people believed about humans. He didn't know why his presence, just sitting in a chair, could shake entire empires. The council chair pounded the floor with a glowing staff. Order! Bring this chamber to order! She yelled, but her voice wavered. Everyone kept shouting. Jonas felt like he was standing in the center of a collapsing universe. Two guards stepped toward him with hesitation, their electric spears shaking in their hands. Jonas raised his palms gently. Please, someone tell me what I did. The war leader who had fallen to his knees lifted his head slowly, his 6 eyes trembling with old nightmares. You do not know, he whispered. Jonas shook his head. Know what? The alien bowed deeper. Your kind, your sleeping power, your cursed silence. The thing that destroyed half our star cluster centuries ago. You carry it. Jonas stared at him, speechless. He felt the room tilt as if the ground had moved beneath his feet. Destroyed a star cluster. Human power? That's impossible, Jonas whispered. But the words tasted like dust. The war leader shook his head violently. We have seen it. We have the recordings. We have sworn never to provoke your species again. But your presence is a sign that Earth remembers. Jonas felt his breath catch. A cold shiver crawled down his spine. He opened his mouth to deny it again, but the alien commander raised both hands in surrender, voice cracking. We will end all battles. We will withdraw our fleets. We submit to the council. We beg Earth for mercy. The council chamber fell so silent it felt like the air itself disappeared. Sweat rolled down Jonas's back. He barely remembered to breathe. Everyone was looking at him as if he held the fate of galaxies in his pocket. This wasn't diplomacy. This was fear, deep ancient fear. Fear of something he didn't even know existed. Jonas felt his hands tremble again. Only this time the tremor moved through the chamber like a shockwave. Some soldiers actually backed away further. A council technician fainted. Even the guards lowered their weapons. The chair tried to speak again, but her voice cracked. Human Jonas Ward, please stay calm. Jonas swallowed. I am calm. The words made several aliens flinch. Jonas felt a chill run through him. Something was wrong inside him too, like a sleeping animal turning in its nest. A memory, a feeling, something he had never felt before. The arena lights flickered as if reacting to him. Jonas tried to breathe slowly. He didn't know it yet, but everyone else in the chamber did. They feared what might happen if a human felt threatened. They feared what might happen if that old legend was true. And they feared that it was already awakening in Jonas Ward. The chamber did not return to normal. Instead it twisted into a deeper storm, every voice sharp with fear, every movement tense like stretched wire ready to snap. The Galactic Council tried to regain order, but their words trembled and shattered against the rising panic. Jonas Ward stood frozen in the center of the Great Hall, feeling the pressure of thousands of eyes crushing into his back like invisible stones. He had never felt so exposed, so confused, so painfully helpless. He wished he could disappear or shrink into a corner, but even shifting his weight caused half the generals to jerk in alarm as though he had raised a weapon. Jonas lowered his hands carefully, his body locked rigid, trying not to provoke another explosion of terror. He wanted to speak, to calm them, to explain he wasn't dangerous, but whenever he inhaled to speak, aliens flinched as if a blade was being drawn. The war leader who had kneeled still shook violently, his heavy armor rattling like broken bones. He refused to lift his head. Around him, Soldiers pressed against the walls as far from Jonas as they could get. Shields raised even though they knew no shield could protect them from the legend they feared. The council chair ordered the doors sealed, and massive gates slid shut with thunderous force, trapping everyone inside with the human they believed could destroy them. A suffocating tension filled the air, thicker than smoke. Jonas could feel it in his lungs. He felt like he had been cast into the middle of a nightmare he didn't understand. He managed to whisper, "Why are you all acting like this? I'm not." "Stop!" Several voices shouted in unison, the sound breaking like glass. Jonas bit down the rest of his words. The chair stepped forward, her tall form shaking as she gripped her glowing staff. "Human Jonas, please, remain very still. This chamber is at risk of destabilizing." Destabilizing? Jonas didn't know what that meant, but the fear in her eyes stabbed deep. She looked at him the way someone looks at fire spreading toward a fuel tank. The chair turned toward the enemy commander. "Explain yourself. Your species swore the ancient stories were exaggerated." "They were not," he whispered, his voice trembling like thin metal. "We hid the truth because we knew the council would accuse us of fear-mongering. But humans, they are not what you think. When they feel cornered, their instinct awakens." Jonas's breath hitched. He felt something faint inside his chest, like a heartbeat beneath his heartbeat, slow and heavy, as if something old was listening. He forced himself to ignore it. The chair asked, "What instinct?" "The silent crown," the commander whispered. "The thing no one should ever see. The thing that once turned entire war fleets into drifting ash." Jonas looked down at his hands. They were trembling slightly. He pressed them against his sides, trying to stop the shaking. He felt like a child trapped in a place meant for monsters and rulers. He wanted to tell them they were wrong, that humans weren't like this, that he wasn't like this. But each time he tried to think, his mind kept falling into a silent emptiness, as if whatever they feared was stirring just beneath his thoughts. Council guards approached slowly, their spears lowered but shaking. Jonas stepped back instinctively. The guards froze instantly, panic flashing across their faces. One of them whispered to the other, "He moved too fast." Jonas's voice cracked. "I'm not going to hurt anyone. Don't talk." The war leader screamed, forcing his head against the floor again. Jonas stopped breathing for a second. His chest tightened painfully. He wanted to run, but he knew running would cause an even bigger reaction. He wished Earth had told him anything about this history. But Earth didn't know. Humanity didn't remember. The chair finally spoke again, her tone softer, directed to the council. "We must understand what the enemy fears. We need answers." Jonas swallowed, feeling that cold inner pulse again. The chair looked at him carefully. She chose each word like stepping stones in a minefield. "Human Jonas, do you feel different?" Jonas hesitated. Every alien leaned back in fear, as if even his hesitation meant danger. He forced himself to speak slowly, softly. "I feel confused. I feel pressured. I feel like something is squeezing my chest when you all shout. But I don't feel dangerous." His words fell like drops of acid, burning the silence. Some aliens believed him, but many didn't. The enemy commander shook his head violently. "He doesn't know. They never know. It lives inside all of them." Jonas felt a tear form at the corner of his eye. Frustration, fear, humiliation mixing together. "I don't want to hurt anyone," he whispered. "I just want to go home." That broke something in the room, because when he whispered that sentence, the lights flickered again. A cold wind moved through the chamber, though no doors were open. It wasn't power failure. It wasn't climate control. It was something else. Something that responded to Jonas's fear. The war leader screamed, "The instinct! It's responding to him. He's waking it up." Jonas staggered backward, hitting the railing of his desk. His breath grew thin and sharp, like he was inhaling ice. His mind blurred at the edges, thoughts stretching, slowing, expanding, as if some hidden part of him was reaching outward. He gripped the railing desperately. "Stop! I don't want this." But the fear around him fed the fear inside him, creating a loop he couldn't break. Several council members retreated into a corner, shielding their faces. "We need a containment field." "No, that will provoke him. We cannot let him panic." Jonas felt his knees weaken. He lowered himself slowly to the ground, trying to keep calm. His voice cracked with raw emotion. "Please, someone help me understand. What do you think I am?" The war leader spoke the answer in a trembling whisper that pressed into every soul in the chamber. "A human that knows fear." Jonas froze. The chamber froze. The words hit him like a blade of cold iron. "Humans that know fear, awaken power beyond reason." The commander continued, voice breaking. "It is not anger that transforms them. It is not rage. It is fear. Pure, overwhelming fear." Jonas's heartbeat thudded loudly in his ears. He didn't understand. He didn't want to understand. His breath started shaking. "Stop," he whispered again. But the fear in the room only kept feeding him. The more it grew, the stronger that strange inner instinct pulsed. It wasn't a power. It wasn't energy. It felt like awareness, sharp, ancient awareness watching the world through his eyes. Jonas clutched his head. "I'm scared. I don't want to be here. I don't want this." His voice cracked like a child's cry. That was when the chamber walls vibrated. It was faint but real. Everyone heard it. Everyone felt it. Several guards fell to their knees. Some council members covered their ears even though the sound wasn't loud. The war leader screamed again. "He's activating it. His fear is tearing the structure." The chair slammed her staff. "Everyone back away. Give the human space before his instinct reacts again." Jonas felt heat flood his eyes. Not fire, not energy, clarity. Every motion in the room slowed down. Every detail sharpened. Every heartbeat echoed. He felt as though he had stepped halfway outside his own body, looking at the world with terrifying precision. He gasped, What is happening to me?" His whisper alone made several aliens cry out. The chair's voice trembled as she tried to stay composed. "Jonas Ward, you are safe, breathe. Please breathe." But safety was the last thing Jonas felt. He felt like something old, something buried deep in his species' forgotten past, was rising inside him. Not a monster, not a weapon, but a survival instinct so sharp it felt like a blade pressed against the universe itself. Jonas curled forward, trying to shut it out, but the pressure in his chest only grew heavier. Tears streaked down his face as he whispered, broken and frightened, "I don't want to be this, please. I don't want this." The entire chamber watched, helpless and terrified, as the human spectator, just one man, struggled against something the galaxy prayed would never awaken again. The chamber trembled with the weight of unspoken truths, fear moving like a cold fog around every corner while Jonas Ward knelt on the floor trying to breathe. His hands shook against the metallic tiles, his heart beating in uneven, painful thuds that felt too loud in the dead silence. Council guards watched him from a distance, their spears lowered but their bodies pressed against the walls as though afraid even to exist too close to him. Jonas felt smaller than he ever had in his life, but the fear inside him kept expanding, stretching through his mind like an unwelcome shadow. The council chair finally ordered the hall to be cleared. Every alien rushed toward the far exits, refusing to walk behind Jonas, refusing to look into his eyes. The enemy commander crawled backward on his knees rather than stand up near him. Within moments, the massive chamber emptied until only 3 remained. Jonas, the trembling war leader, and the council chair who forced herself to stay though fear flickered across her features like lightning. Jonas didn't lift his head. He didn't trust the feeling inside him, the sharp awareness that made every sound too clear, every heartbeat too loud. He whispered, voice barely holding together, "Please, don't leave me alone like this. I don't want to hurt anyone. I don't understand what's happening to me." The chair swallowed hard, her voice reaching him with gentle caution. "Jonas, we need to take you to the private council chamber. There are truths you must hear away from the others." Jonas looked up slowly, afraid even of moving. "Truths about what?" The war leader answered, his voice cracking under years of buried fear. "About your species. About why we feared you long before today." Jonas wanted to protest, to say humans were peaceful, friendly, ordinary. But nothing about today felt ordinary. He rose slowly, deliberately, careful not to move too fast. The chamber lights flickered again when he stood. The war leader whimpered softly. Jonas felt his stomach clench. He hated this. He hadn't done anything wrong. Yet everyone reacted like he was a living nightmare. The chair extended an arm and 3 smaller doors opened into a narrow corridor glowing blue with security shields. Jonas followed her, each step echoing too loudly. The war leader stayed behind them, crawling instead of walking upright. Jonas tried not to look. After what felt like hours, they reached a quiet, circular room at the center of the arena. It was dimly lit, walls covered in shimmering memory crystals. The door sealed behind them with a heavy thud. Jonas stood in the center, hands shaking. The chair stepped onto a raised platform and activated a large crystal. A hologram appeared, static-filled footage of a battlefield from centuries ago. Jonas felt the blood drain from his face. The footage showed humans, but not like any he had ever seen. These humans were calm, silent, unarmed. Yet everything around them collapsed. Ships, tanks, beasts, crumbling like sand as invisible pressure crushed them. Jonas stared. What is that?" The chair looked at him with a mixture of pity and fear. This recording was taken during the first expansion wars. An entire enemy fleet fell without any known weapon. Survivors reported one thing: a single human who walked through the battlefield like a ghost, terrified but determined. Jonas backed up a step. His breath hitched. "That's not possible. Humans can't do that. That's..." The war leader cut him off with a trembling whisper. "They called it the silent crown. The instinct that awakens when a human is cornered, terrified, pushed beyond the breaking point. Turns fear into force, mind into weapon." Jonas felt cold sweat on his back. His hands went numb. "No, you're wrong. That's some kind of trick. Humanity never..." The chair shook her head. Earth erased many records after the collapse wars. The galaxy did not. Another video appeared, this time showing a lone human mother shielding her child during an ambush. No weapons, no power suits. Yet every attacker around her clutched their chest and fell, screaming without wounds. Jonas stumbled backward until his back hit the wall. He slid down, covering his face. "This can't be real. Humans don't have something like this. We're normal. We're just..." "You are mammals born on a death world," the chair said softly. "You evolved around predators that would have wiped out most known species. Fear shaped you into something adaptable, dangerous, and unpredictable. The instinct was rare, until war pushed your ancestors into extinction-level terror." Jonas felt his throat tighten painfully. He remembered every moment of fear he felt in the chamber. Every flicker of clarity. Every strange pulse inside him. Something inside him whispered that it was real, that something had shifted. He whispered, "But I'm nothing like those people. I've never hurt anyone." The war leader spoke now, voice low, defeated. "That is the problem. Humans never feel it until it is too late. They awaken only when their fear overwhelms them. When they feel small, cornered, powerless." Jonas squeezed his eyes shut. That's exactly how he had felt the entire time in the chamber. He remembered how the lights flickered, how the walls vibrated, how aliens flinched when he whispered. His heartbeat thudded louder, echoing through the room. The chair took a step forward, carefully, like approaching a wounded animal. "Jonas, look at me. You are scared. You have every right to be. But you must understand. The galaxy built legends around your fear response. They trained their soldiers never to corner humans, never to trap them, never to put them under extreme pressure." "Why?" Jonas whispered. "Because when humans reach that point," the chair said, "they stop being prey. They become something else." Jonas rested his head against the wall, breath shaking unevenly. He didn't want this. He didn't want to be feared. He didn't want to be a danger. He wanted to be a normal man who studied languages and cultures. Not a walking disaster. Not a myth. Not a weapon. Images of the recordings replayed in his mind. People collapsing, ships imploding, energy bending around silent humans. He wrapped his arms around himself as if trying to stay inside his own skin. "Why didn't Earth know?" he whispered. "Why didn't my people tell us?" The chair lowered her gaze. "Because Earth believed the instinct vanished. Years of peace weakened it. But sometimes, in rare individuals, it surfaces again." The war leader pointed at Jonas with a trembling claw. "It surfaced in you." Jonas shook his head violently, tears forming in his eyes. No, I don't want this. I don't want to hurt anyone." The chair moved closer, slowly. "Jonas, listen. You are not a monster. You are not a threat by choice. You are a human who is frightened and overwhelmed. That is not your fault." Jonas looked up at her, eyes glassy. "Then what happens to me now?" The room went quiet. The chair exchanged a long, heavy look with the war leader. Neither wanted to say the answer, but Jonas needed it. Finally, the chair inhaled deeply. "Now we must keep you calm. We must keep you safe. And we must make sure the galaxy never forces your instinct to awaken fully." Jonas wiped his face with trembling hands. "And if it does awaken?" The war leader answered in a broken whisper. "Then empires will fall." Jonas closed his eyes. A single tear slid down his cheek. For the first time in his life, he was afraid of himself. The private chamber's lights dimmed to a heavy blue as silence settled between Jonas, the council chair, and the trembling war leader. Jonas sat hunched in the center, arms wrapped around himself, eyes red from fear and exhaustion. His thoughts felt scattered, floating like broken glass in water, sharp and painful every time he tried to hold something still. He had come here as a simple observer. Now he sat in a fortress-like room while two of the galaxy's highest authorities watched him like he held a ticking bomb inside his chest. The war leader finally pushed himself upright, his joints shaking with each movement. Even standing felt like a punishment. He still refused to look Jonas in the eyes. Instead, he stared at the floor, voice breaking. "Human, we request a private meeting." Jonas blinked, confused, tired. "A private meeting? Why?" The war leader's throat plates fluttered with fear. "Because the council does not know what we have seen. And because our empire has built its survival on studying the few rare humans who awakened this instinct." Jonas felt his stomach drop. "I'm not awakened," he whispered. "I don't feel like—" "You do not decide," the war leader said softly. "Your fear decides." Jonas froze. His heart tightened, almost painfully. The chair raised a warning hand. "Be careful how you speak. He is already overwhelmed." But the war leader shook his head. "Overwhelmed is how it begins." Jonas felt the words sink deeper than he wanted. He didn't understand why this alien kept speaking in riddles, why everything felt like a warning, why every pair of eyes in the galaxy trembled the moment they landed on him. Jonas swallowed hard, forcing his voice steady. "Fine. What do you want to talk about?" The war leader hesitated, then made a gesture toward a smaller room attached to the chamber. "In there. Just you and me." Jonas looked at the council chair, silently asking if he had a choice. She exhaled slowly, the lines under her eyes deepening. "I will stay close. But he is correct. There are answers you may only hear when you are alone with him." Jonas didn't want to go. His legs felt heavy. His thoughts felt like they were wrapped in cold wire. But something inside him, fear or instinct, pushed him to move. He stepped into the smaller room. The door sealed behind the two of them with a soft hiss. The room was almost empty. A table, two chairs, a single dim light. Jonas sat slowly. The war leader did not sit. He stayed kneeling opposite Jonas, his massive body trembling. Jonas wanted to tell him to stand, to stop being afraid, but he knew the words would not help. Finally, the alien raised a small device, a projection crystal with black markings. Jonas leaned forward, watching the flicker of its glow. "What is that?" he asked. Proof, the war leader answered softly. Proof of what we fear. The crystal activated. A hologram played. Not a battle. Not destruction. Something far worse. It showed a young human, barely older than Jonas, trapped in a collapsing transport during an old border war. His breathing was fast, panicked. The enemy troops outside fired at the transport. The human screamed for help. And then, the footage blurred. It didn't explode. It didn't burn. It didn't crack. It simply folded. The transport bent into itself like soft clay. The soldiers outside dropped instantly, their bodies hitting the ground without wounds. Jonas's breath caught. He leaned back unconsciously, feeling ice crawl up the back of his skull. What happened? He whispered. The war leader's voice turned hollow. His fear turned into force. His instinct awakened. He did not survive. Jonas felt his throat close. He died. Humans cannot handle the full awakening, the war leader said. The instinct destroys the mind. The body follows shortly after. Jonas clutched the table. Fear, deep, suffocating fear, rose again inside him. Not fear of the galaxy, not fear of war, fear of himself. Are you telling me, Jonas whispered shakily, that if this instinct activates, I die? The war leader nodded slowly. Yes. Jonas closed his eyes. A single tear slid down his cheek. A quiet, wounded sound escaped him. He didn't want power. He didn't want warnings. He didn't want to be feared. He wanted to live, to go home, to be normal. He felt sick, heart twisting as though someone gripped his lungs. Why show me this? He whispered. To terrify me? The war leader lowered himself even further, bowing completely to the floor. No, to beg you for mercy. Jonas stared, stunned. Mercy? For what? The war leader's voice shook violently. Our species attacked Earth a century ago. We hid the truth of what we did. And now we fear that one day, you will awaken and remember. Jonas shook his head. I don't want revenge. Your instinct does, the war leader said, barely audible. Jonas froze. His hands trembled. You're lying? You're trying to scare me? If scaring you made this worse, I would stay silent, the war leader said desperately. But Jonas Ward, listen to me. The instinct reacts to danger, to threat, to betrayal. It is older than your memory, older than your records. It sleeps deep inside your species. Even if your mind does not want revenge, the instinct may want survival. Jonas felt something inside him flinch, a small flicker, like a match in darkness. He whispered, I'm not going to let something inside me control me. The war leader shuddered. That is what every awakened human said, before they lost themselves. Jonas felt hollow inside. The chair under him felt too small, the room too tight, the air too thin. He wrapped his arms around himself again as a cold tremor shook through him. No, I can't be that. I can't. The war leader finally lifted his head, his eyes full of fear and guilt. You do not understand, Jonas Ward. We are not afraid of you. We are afraid of what your fear will do to the rest of us. Jonas stared. The words stabbed deeper than any weapon. He realized the galaxy wasn't kneeling because humans were powerful. They were kneeling because humans were fragile, so fragile that when pushed to the edge, something ancient inside them shattered the world around them. Jonas's lips trembled. How do I stop it? The alien lowered his gaze. You don't. You manage it. You stay calm. You avoid deep fear. Jonas laughed softly. Broken. Hopeless. Avoid fear? In a galaxy full of wars? In a room full of people terrified of me? The war leader bowed again. I am sorry. Jonas shook his head, tears falling freely now. No, you're not. You're scared. Just like I am. For the first time, the alien looked him in the eyes. And for the first time, Jonas saw something besides fear, regret. Deep, ancient regret. The war leader whispered, Yes, I am scared, because if you awaken, I will not survive the next breath. Jonas felt the instinct stir again at those words, sharp, cold, whispering at the edge of his awareness. He squeezed his eyes shut, fighting it back. Please, stop talking. I can't handle more. The war leader lowered his head. Silence filled the room. Jonas was left trembling, terrified of a power he didn't want, and terrified that no one, not even he, could control it. The private chamber had gone silent, but silence only made everything worse. Jonas sat hunched in the dim room, breathing shallowly as the war leader's last words echoed inside him like slow, cold thunder. If you awaken, I will not survive the next breath. That line carved itself deep into Jonas's mind. Not because he wanted harm, but because he feared he might cause it without meaning to. Fear wrapped around his chest like iron bands. He pressed his hands to his ribs, trying to steady his breath. The room felt tighter with every inhale, as if the air itself resisted him. The war leader knelt a safe distance away, not moving, barely breathing. The council chair watched Jonas with eyes full of caution and pity. Jonas couldn't look at either of them. He felt like an exposed nerve, raw, shaking, painfully aware of every tiny sound in the room. He heard the war leader's slow heartbeat, the faint crackle of the lights, the faint hum of the energy shields outside the walls. Too clear, too sharp, too unnatural. Jonas squeezed his eyes shut. Something is happening to me, he whispered. I don't feel like myself. The chair took a single careful step closer. Jonas, listen to me. You are safe. Nothing is going to hurt you. Jonas shook his head violently. That's not true. Something inside me is waking up. I can feel it. It's like a second heartbeat, like a shadow inside my chest. The war leader flinched visibly. He can feel it. It has begun. Jonas's hands trembled as he pressed them to the floor. Stop saying that. I don't want it to begin. But before anyone could speak again, the entire arena shook. A long, deep tremor rolled through the floors, walls, and ceiling. Jonas's head snapped up. The instinct inside him jolted like lightning. The chair turned sharply toward the sealed door. What was that? A guard's voice crackled through the comm panel. Council chair. The outer ring. Under attack by rogue factions. They want the human. They want to eliminate him before the instinct fully awakens. Jonas's breath froze. They're coming for me? Yes, the guard shouted, panic in his voice. They believe if you die, the war stays balanced. They think killing you is the safest option. Jonas felt something deep inside him crack open. Fear, pure, sharp, blinding, surged through him. His vision blurred at the edges, not from weakness but from something else rising beneath his skin. The chair's voice trembled. Guards, hold them off. Do not let anyone near this room. The war leader staggered back, raising both hands. Jonas Ward, do not panic. But it was too late. Panic was already clawing through Jonas's chest. His breath came fast and uneven. His heart thundered painfully. His fingertips tingled as if electricity danced beneath his skin. The room dimmed around him. Not because the lights flickered, but because his awareness tunneled into something deeper, sharper. His hearing expanded. His sight sharpened. The walls seemed thinner, the air heavier, every detail too vivid. Jonas gasped. I can't breathe. Something is wrong. The war leader dropped fully to the floor. He is awakening. Jonas's body leaned forward involuntarily, as though something pulled him from inside. He grabbed the edge of the table, but the metal began to bend under his grip. He froze. He wasn't strong enough to bend metal. But his fear was, his instinct was. Jonas released the table, staring at his trembling hands as if they didn't belong to him. The lights flickered again. No, they flickered with him, every pulse of brightness matching the rhythm of his heartbeat. A cold, deep awareness brushed against the edges of his thoughts, like a hand testing a locked door. Jonas curled forward, pressing his forehead to the floor. Stop, 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 he whispered urgently, fighting the rising pressure inside. The door suddenly exploded with noise, shouts, blasts, weapons clashing, soldiers screaming. Jonas felt the shockwave of each impact inside his chest. He felt their fear. He felt their intent. He felt danger closing in like a tightening rope. The instinct reacted instantly. Jonas felt the shift. His pupils tightened. His heartbeat slowed but grew louder, each beat like a heavy drum. The temperature in the room dropped several degrees. The war leader crawled backward until his back hit the wall. It's happening. The air is changing. He's radiating it. The chair stared in horror. She had seen powerful beings before. Leaders, generals, ancient species. But she had never felt this kind of pressure from someone sitting on the ground, unarmed, terrified. Jonas lifted his head slowly, painfully, like someone waking from a nightmare. His eyes glowed faintly. Not with color, not with power, but with clarity. Terrifying, unnatural clarity. "They're coming," he whispered, voice low and quiet yet echoing in the room. The chair stepped back. "Jonas, how do you know?" "I can feel them," Jonas said, breath shaking. "I feel their fear, their anger, their decision. They're going to blow the chamber door." The war leader shook uncontrollably. He feels emotions beyond these walls. He's crossing the first threshold. Jonas pressed a hand to his chest. The instinct pulsed harder, pushing outward, sharpening everything. His fear wasn't weakening him. It was transforming him. "I don't want this," Jonas whispered again, voice cracking. "I want it to stop." The war leader bowed his head. "Fear is your fuel. Fear is the key. You cannot stop it. Only calm can hold it back." Jonas felt tears fall down his cheeks, but the instinct didn't let his voice break. It held him steady, cold, painfully aware. The guards outside screamed as the door shook violently under weapons fire. Jonas flinched, and the entire room trembled with him. The council chair gasped. The chamber is reacting to him. Jonas pressed both hands flat on the floor, trying to anchor himself. "Please, don't let them come in. I won't be able to control it," the war leader whispered, voice trembling. "If Jonas Ward reaches phase 2, we will not survive this room." Jonas felt another blast hit the door and something inside him snapped fully open, like a sealed door cracking. His mind expanded outward, sensing movement in the hall. 5 attackers. 3 nervous. 2 determined. 1 ready to die. He felt their footsteps. He felt their weapons. He felt their intention to kill him. And his instinct responded with a protective surge that made Jonas gasp. The air thickened violently. The lights flickered into darkness. The floor vibrated like a heartbeat. Jonas whispered, barely audible, "I don't want to die." The war leader sobbed into the floor. "And that is why the galaxy fears your kind." Another blast shook the door. Jonas flinched and the walls rippled. Actually rippled, bending like flexible metal for a second. Jonas stared in horror. No, stop. I don't want this." But the instinct didn't care what he wanted. Cared only that he was afraid. And fear was now controlling the air, the energy, the structure, the space around him. Jonas curled up, tears falling fast, whispering desperately, "Please, somebody help me." But no one in the room could, and outside the door, death was rushing toward him. The chamber lights flickered wildly as the instinct inside Jonas continued to rise, pulsing through the air like a silent storm. Every breath he took came out sharp, trembling, filled with a fear that burned too deep for words. The pressure around him thickened, bending the walls, dimming the lights, tightening the air until even the council chair struggled to breathe. Jonas didn't see any of it. His eyes were shut tight, tears sliding down his face as he curled on the floor, whispering broken pleas. "Stop. Please stop. I don't want this. I don't want anyone to die." But the instinct didn't understand mercy. It only understood survival. It responded to every tremor from the door, every shout in the hallway, every hint of danger. Out in the corridor, the attackers prepared another heavy charge. Jonas felt their intent like knives pressing against his skin. Emotional shockwaves hit him harder each second. The instinct inside him pushed harder in response, a silent pressure gathering around him like invisible armor. The war leader crouched in the farthest corner, shaking so hard his armor plates rattled. He whispered in a trembling voice, Phase 1 is breaking. He is entering Phase 2. The word stabbed Jonas's mind, feeding his fear. He didn't want phases. He didn't want power. He wanted to breathe. Just breathe. But every inhale felt colder. Every exhale felt heavier. The chair forced herself to take a step forward, despite her legs trembling. "Jonas," she said softly, "listen to me. You are not alone. You are not in danger. You have to stay calm." Jonas lifted his head slowly, eyes wide, shining with panic and clarity both. "I can feel them," he whispered. "I can feel their fear, their hatred, their plan. They want me dead." The chair nodded gently. "They are misled. They think killing you will stop a war." Jonas's eyes darkened with horror. "They think I'm a threat." The chair did not answer. The truth was too heavy to speak. Jonas pressed a shaking hand against the floor and the metal rippled softly beneath his fingertips, like a pond disturbed by a drop of water. He jerked his hand back immediately, terrified. "I'm losing control." The war leader raised his head slightly. "Humans do not control the instinct. The instinct controls them." Jonas felt nausea twist in his stomach. "Then how do I stop it?" The chair swallowed. "You cannot stop it. Only peace can suppress it." Jonas let out a broken laugh, soft, hopeless. "Peace? When everyone in this station is terrified of me." Before she could answer, the chamber door thundered violently. A burst of white sparks sprayed from the reinforced seal. Another blast. The metal frame groaned. Jonas flinched hard, and the entire room shook with him. The ceiling lights dimmed to an eerie blue. The temperature dropped instantly. A faint vibration spread across the floor like a heartbeat. His heartbeat. Jonas grabbed both sides of his head, voice shaking. "Please, pull them back. I can't. I don't want to awaken," the war leader whispered. "He's begging." "The instinct is twisting." The chair activated her wrist panel, speaking urgently. "Security. Stand down. Pull back now. Do not attack. Repeat. Do not attack." But only static answered. Jonas's breathing became faster, uncontrolled. "They're coming. I can feel them. 5 of them. They want to break the door." The war leader stared in horror. "He can detect their emotions through walls. This is beyond Phase 1. Jonas's voice cracked. "I don't want to hurt them. I don't want to be this." The chair stepped closer, carefully. "Jonas, look at me. Humans do not awaken because of anger. They awaken because of fear. Your fear is feeding this. I need you to focus on something calm, something safe." Jonas tried. He tried so hard. He thought of Earth, blue skies, crowded cafes, his favorite quiet library. But every peaceful memory was drowned by the pounding danger outside the door. He felt their steps approaching. He felt their fingers tightening around their weapons. He felt the instant they made their decision. Kill the human before he becomes unstoppable. Jonas whispered, "They're going to kill me." The instinct surged. Jonas gasped as the pressure exploded inside his chest. The walls shook violently. The lights went out for a full second. The war leader shielded his face. "It's starting." His instinct is reacting. The door outside screamed under metal stress. Jonas clutched his chest, teeth clenched. "I'm scared. I'm so scared." A tear slipped down his cheek. But when it hit the floor, the metal shivered around it. The instinct responded to every drop of emotion. Jonas pressed both hands to the floor, desperately trying to stay grounded. "I don't want to die. I don't want to awaken, please." The chair lowered herself slightly, speaking in a steady whisper. "Jonas, look at me. Breathe. You must hear something now. Something the galaxy has hidden." Jonas lifted his trembling gaze. She inhaled deeply. "The silent crown is not energy. It is not magic. It is not a weapon. It is a reflex, a biological force shaped by millions of years of surviving predators, wars, void storms, and death-world conditions." Jonas blinked through his tears. "A reflex?" "Yes," she said. "A survival reflex beyond conscious control, triggered only when every instinct in your body screams that you are about to die." Jonas's pulse hammered painfully. So if they break the door, your reflex might activate fully, she said gently. And none of us, not even you, will survive the next second. Jonas shook his head violently. No, no, I won't let that happen. But the instinct pulsed harder, squeezing his chest. His vision blurred again. The war leader whispered, "He is fighting it, but that will only make the awakening worse." Jonas felt trapped. Inside the room, inside his body, inside his fear. He slammed a hand against the floor in desperation. The metal dented inward under his palm. Jonas jerked his hand back in horror. No, no, no. His breath turned thin. His chest rose and fell too fast. The instinct swelled with every second. Suddenly, boom! The outer hallway erupted in screams. Jonas felt it like fire. Someone outside yelled, "Blow the door! Now!" Jonas flinched so violently the air around him rippled. The floor trembled. The lights flickered again. The chair screamed into her calm. "Stop! Do not detonate the door. The human is destabilizing." Too late. A final charge ignited. A deafening blast slammed the door. Jonas screamed softly, barely a breath. But the instinct responded with a shockwave that spread through the chamber like cold lightning. The war leader collapsed. The chair lost her balance. Jonas felt his mind split between terror and a rising force he could no longer contain. His eyes widened with pain as the instinct finally broke past its last barrier. A single, soft pulse of power radiated from him. Not loud, not bright, not violent, silent, invisible, fatal. Outside the chamber, every attacker dropped instantly, like their strings had been cut. Jonas didn't see it. Jonas didn't know. Jonas only felt the moment his instinct touched death. And it broke something inside him. Tears streamed down his face. What did I do?" The chair, shaking, whispered the truth with a trembling voice. "Jonas Ward. This is why the galaxy fears your kind." Jonas felt the instinct rising again, deeper, stronger. He wasn't the same anymore. The chamber felt colder than space itself as Jonas knelt on the floor, trembling. His breath shallow and his mind spinning in silent horror. He didn't understand what he had done. He didn't want to understand. But he felt it. Deep inside his bones, beneath his heartbeat, behind his thoughts. A heavy pulse that was not his, and yet completely his. Something ancient. Something buried. Something awake. His hands shook violently as he stared at his palms, as if they might reveal the truth he feared. That he had killed people without lifting a finger. The council chair dragged herself back to her feet, leaning against the wall with a trembling arm. She stared at Jonas with wide, stunned eyes. "Jonas, listen to me. You must stay calm. If your instinct rises again." Jonas covered his ears and shook his head. Stop saying that. I didn't want to hurt anyone." Tears streamed down his face, blurring the room. His voice cracked into a weak whisper. "I didn't want anyone to die." The war leader slowly crawled to one knee, his huge form shaking like a child. He could not meet Jonas's eyes. "The attackers made their choice," he said softly. "They triggered your reflex. You did not kill them intentionally." "It doesn't matter," Jonas shouted, his voice trembling but loud enough to send a faint ripple through the air. The war leader pressed himself against the wall instantly. Jonas gasped when he saw that reaction and forced his voice low again. "I don't want power. I don't want a reflex. I don't want any of this." A heavy silence followed, broken only by Jonas's ragged breathing and the distant alarms of the damaged arena. The chair slowly approached him, moving carefully, like every step might decide the fate of the galaxy. "Jonas, something important is about to happen. You must hear it." Jonas didn't lift his head. He whispered through shaking breaths. I can't take more." The chair swallowed hard. "The council has seen the readings. The entire arena. Every diplomat, every general, every watching empire felt the pulse that just came from you." Jonas's heart stopped for a second. "They know." The chair nodded slowly. "Yes, they know your instinct is awake. And now, They believe you hold the power to end the war alone. Jonas squeezed his eyes closed as more tears fell. I don't want that responsibility. I don't want to decide anything. But the fate of galaxies never asked permission. Footsteps approached from the corridor, the heavy steps of elite guards and high-ranking diplomats. The main door slid open slowly. Jonas flinched, but the guards stayed at the threshold, bowing deeply toward him, afraid to enter. Behind them, the surviving council members emerged, pale with fear. And behind them, the enemy generals, all kneeling, all silent, all trembling. Jonas's breath caught. Every alien in the room lowered their heads to him, even those who had tried to look strong earlier, even those who had mocked humans in the past, even those whose armor bore marks from centuries of war. Jonas Ward, an untrained, ordinary man, was being treated like a living force older than empires. A trembling council elder spoke first, voice soft and hollow. Human Jonas Ward, you carry the silent crown. You do not need to command armies. Your instinct alone shifts the balance of life and death. Jonas felt dizzy. He pushed himself back against the wall, shaking. Please, don't say that. But she continued. The war is over. The enemy empire has submitted. Their fleets are standing down. Their colonies will surrender. Their weapons will be melted. The enemy war leader dropped fully to the floor, forehead touching metal. We offer everything. Territory, resources, all borders, all concessions. Just spare us. Spare our worlds. Spare our children. Jonas pressed both hands over his face as grief tore through him. No, no. Don't do this. Don't give me this power. The war leader shook. You already have it, whether you want it or not. Jonas looked around the room. Every alien bowed, every diplomat kneeling, the council waiting for his answer. His answer, his choice. The entire galaxy trembled, waiting for one human's next breath. Jonas felt the rising instinct stir again, reacting to the stress, the pressure, the weight. He pressed a trembling hand to his chest. I don't want to awaken, he whispered. I don't want to destroy anyone. I don't want to repeat history. The chair knelt too, lowering her staff. Even she, the most powerful political figure in the room, bowed to the trembling human sitting on the floor. Jonas Ward, you are not a weapon. You are not a curse. You are a frightened man trying to hold back a force older than your records. And that alone makes you worthy of choosing peace. Jonas wiped his tears, breathing unevenly. What am I supposed to choose? The chair lifted her eyes. Mercy or fear, peace or destruction. You will decide what happens to the two greatest empires alive today. Jonas's heart sank deeper. The instinct pulsed again. His fear rose again. His breath shook again. But then, he looked at the kneeling generals, the trembling guards, the terrified diplomats. He felt their fear, but he also felt something else. Desire for survival, pleas for mercy, silent hope for peace. Jonas whispered, voice soft but strong, I choose mercy. The war leader broke into sobs. The council exhaled. Even the walls felt lighter. Jonas lifted his chin, tears still shining in his eyes. End the war without blood, without revenge, without destruction. His voice steadied. Let this end because of peace, not because you fear me. The chair bowed even deeper, her voice full of awe. Your choice changes the fate of the galaxy. Jonas lowered his head, exhausted, whispering, I just want to go home. But the instinct inside him pulsed once more, quietly, dangerously, as if whispering a warning he could not understand. And in the far distance across the arena, something ancient heard it. The chamber felt different now, lighter, calmer. But beneath that thin calm lay a deep tremor of fear that refused to die. Jonas sat on the cold floor, wiping tears from his cheeks as his heartbeat slowly quieted. The instinct inside him no longer roared like a storm, but it didn't disappear either. It pulsed quietly, like an animal watching from the shadows, waiting for a reason to rise. The council members stayed kneeling, too afraid to stand. The enemy generals kept their heads bowed to the ground, afraid even to breathe too loudly. The war leader trembled in silence. Jonas felt sick seeing so many powerful figures kneeling because of him. He felt smaller, weaker, more human than ever. "Please, stand up," Jonas whispered, voice exhausted. "I don't want anyone bowing to me." But no one moved, not even the chair. "We kneel because the galaxy has not seen mercy like this," she said softly. "You hold power that could end worlds. Yet you chose peace. Few rulers in history have done the same." Jonas shook his head. "I'm not a ruler. I'm not a leader. I'm not anything." The chair looked at him with gentle sadness. "And that is exactly why your choice mattered." Jonas pulled his legs closer to his chest, hugging himself. He felt so tired, so drained, like the instinct had taken half his strength. The war leader finally raised his head, tears in his 6 eyes. "You spared us. You spared our empire. We will remember this for 1,000 years." Jonas swallowed hard. "Please, I didn't do it for you. I did it because I don't want to hurt anyone." The chair nodded slowly. "Your fear spared millions. It is tragic and beautiful." Jonas didn't feel beautiful. He felt broken. He looked around the chamber, at the crushed walls, the dimmed lights, the warped metal where his instinct had bent the floor. "I want to go home," he whispered weakly. "I want this to stop. I want to forget all of it." The chair walked forward slowly and knelt beside him. "You will be escorted back to Earth. We will hide what happened today. The galaxy cannot learn the details." Jonas frowned, confused. "Why?" The chair's voice dropped lower. "If other empires know that the Silent Crown is awakening again, they will panic. They will prepare counterstrikes. They will not be as forgiving. Some will try to use humans as weapons. Others will try to wipe your species out." Jonas's blood ran cold. "So, you're going to keep today a secret?" She nodded. "For your safety. For everyone's safety." Jonas lowered his gaze. "And what about my instinct?" The chair hesitated. "It may fade if you remain calm, safe, and isolated from danger. It might return to sleep." "And if it doesn't?" Jonas whispered. She lowered her head. "Then the galaxy will tremble." Jonas closed his eyes, breathing heavily. He didn't want to be a threat. He didn't want galaxies to tremble. He just wanted to be human again. A guard slowly stepped into the room. "Council Chair, the arena is secure. The attackers are neutralized. The fleets await your signal." The chair rose, helping Jonas stand. His legs felt weak and unsteady, and he leaned against the wall for support. The war leader bowed deeply once more. "May your instinct never awaken again," Jonas warned. "For your sake and ours." Jonas gave a tired nod but said nothing. His mind felt foggy, like he was walking inside a bad dream. The chair placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Come, let's get you out of here before the council begins the recordings." Jonas followed her through the hallway, stepping past collapsed attackers whose faces were frozen in peace, without pain, as if they had simply fallen asleep. Jonas looked away quickly, guilt twisting inside him like a knife. "I didn't want to hurt them," he whispered. The chair nodded sadly. "I know." They reached the central transport lift. Jonas hesitated before stepping inside. He looked back at the broken chamber one last time. The bent walls, the cracked lights, the floor dented where his hands had pressed. Proof of something he didn't want to believe. Something he wished he could erase. The lift doors slid shut. As it rose, Jonas felt a sudden strange pressure in the air. A vibration, distant but sharp, like a signal reaching across the void. He froze. The chair noticed his expression. "Jonas? What's wrong?" Jonas stared forward, eyes widening slightly as the vibration passed through him again. Something calling? Watching? Listening? No, something recognizing him. "You don't feel that?" he whispered. "Feel what?" The chair's voice grew tense. Jonas pressed a hand to his chest. "It feels like something out there just woke up." The chair stiffened. "Is it your instinct?" Jonas shook his head slowly. "No. This is coming from outside the station, far outside. Before she could respond, the lift doors slid open into the council observation deck. Thousands of screens floated in the air showing various sectors of space. Diplomats and aides rushed around, forming emergency channels to turn Jonas's peaceful decision into a universal treaty. But all of that fell silent when one screen flashed red. An emergency broadcast. A forgotten channel. An ancient one. A signal no one had heard in centuries. The speakers crackled. A low, distorted voice filled the entire deck. Deep, cold, familiar. If a human awakens again, we will return. The entire council froze. Jonas felt the instinct inside him shiver. The broadcast repeated, louder. If a human awakens again, we will return. A forgotten empire, an empire older than most living species, had heard Jonas's pulse. And it had answered. Diplomats screamed. Generals panicked. Security scrambled for weapons. But Jonas stood there, frozen, heart pounding, as the instinct inside him stirred like a beast smelling danger. The chair whispered in horror. No, no. They vanished centuries ago. Jonas whispered back, voice cracking. Who are they? She slowly turned toward him, face pale as snow. The only empire humanity ever feared. Jonas's chest tightened. His breath shook. The instinct pulsed again. Strong, too strong. A cold whisper filled his mind. Not his own voice. Something older. Something terrifying. They're coming. Jonas staggered back, grabbing the railing. His vision blurred with fear. The signal repeated a third time. If a human awakens again, we will return. Jonas's eyes widened. He whispered, voice breaking, They're coming for me? The instinct inside him snapped awake like a blazing eye. Jonas Ward wasn't done. The galaxy wasn't safe. And the story had only begun.